Are you supposed to go in that hole?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
this is like the descent. I don't feel good about it.
Sure.
Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, good. And you're both over 18.
Yes.
Good. I can give you the adult tour.
Thank you.
Now, when we came down here, you see this, this was, ma'am, no dog, please. Thank you. It's a Hawaiian thing. They don't want dogs in here. This is Mahalapu. Mahalapu means lazy penis foreskin. The top is actually circumcised. Hawaiian practice circumcision, but it was more of a rite of passage than for health reasons.
The Hawaiians did it for a rite of passage?
Yeah.
At what age?
Probably around 15.
Ow!
Now, if you look up here, you see that white crescent. In the center of it, you can see the bees. Our beehive used to be over here, but we were worried about people getting stung, so we took the queen out of here, lowered the beekeeper down on a wire, swung him in, and put the queen in there. So now the beehive is over there.
Oh, wow.
This vine here was growing here when we came in. That's the only native plant that we didn't actually plant inside here. That's called Mayapili. It's a member of the caper family, and it's the only one that we found growing in here when we came in.
So just this one vine?
Yes, one vine here.
All this stuff you added?
Yeah, everything else in here we added. We added those trees. You can actually see that vine growing over here.
Oh, in the ground, yeah.
Now you see this gray all the way around up here?
Yep.
1.5 million years ago, we had the last volcanic eruption on Kauai. And this was just a giant sand dune with lava flowing over the top of it. Have you been out to Spouting Horn yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
When you go out to Spouting Horn, you'll see what happened in here. Sea level was lowered. The ocean was coming in, pounding up against this roof. It pounded for years, and then 7,000 years ago, this whole ceiling collapsed. So underneath here, there's lava. We can't do any of our research under here because we can't punch down through it. Now the other thing that's underneath here is fresh water. There's an island, there's a mountain in the center of this island called Mount Waialeale. It gets between 200 and 400 inches of rain a year. The water comes down the side of the mountain, comes out underneath here, goes all the way out to the stream. This water has no pH. Anything that falls in it will not rot.
Zero?
Zero. It just means that nothing.
Completely neutral.
Completely neutral.
Wow.
Now the reason we know that is because we call this the garbage pit over here. Because the water is completely neutral. In 2009, when we pumped this out, we found the complete carcass of a horse that had gotten tangled up in barbed wire and was dropped down into here.
How long had he been in there?
I have no idea, but it wasn't long. And we come down here every day, so it must have been in here for, actually I don't know, but it was in here a long time.
So things do not decompose if it's in pH 0?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I'll show you, we also found a skeleton of a goat. Now if you come on over here, I'll show you how we got the name of this cavern. I took archaeology at Kauai Community College, and my professor, Dr. Kila Kikuchi, said, let's ask the seniors, maybe we can figure out what the name of this place was. Now I drew this kind of Mickey Mouse island of Kauai here, so you could see that the chiefs divided the island up into these things called ahapua'a. They run all the way from the top of the mountain out to the ocean. This is the ahapua'a of Mahalapu. Up here they looked for feathers for their capes. They grew breadfruit, taro, and sugarcane over here. Of course, out here they fished. Now this is called a kuleana. If a chief likes you, he'll break off part of his ahapua'a and give it to you as a kuleana. This kuleana belonged to a woman named LaFrance Kopaka. She is the traditional owner of this cavern. It's owned by Grove Farm, but she's the traditional owner. We got the name of the cavern from her great-great-great-grandfather. His name was Kiahikuni, and Kiahikuni was a shaman. Back in here we found these 6 things that looked like little post holes. There was actually a platform back in here that Kiahikuni would sit on. Out here, 30 inches down, there's wet sand. Kiahikuni would sit on his platform, light a small fire, push the fire off into the wet sand, and when the smoke came up, he would tell the future by looking through the smoke. Oh. This is some of the smoke from Kiahikuni's fires. So the name of the cavern is Maka for eye and Uwahi for smoke. So this was the smoky-eyed cavern. This is called moon milk. We've had a number of different kinds of algae in here. This is some of the weirder stuff. Because there isn't enough sunlight to photosynthesize, moon milk grows a bacteria on top of itself, and then it eats the bacteria. So it's actually producing its own food.
It grows and then eats its own food. Is this
Exactly.
pH 0 also?
Yes, it is. All the water in here is pH 0. Now, if you come on over here, this is like looking at tree rings. One of my favorite things. Take a look here. We've got 400,000 years here. This is dirt, sand, 400,000 years. What happens is the vegetation on top of the lava up there turns the rainwater partly acidic. The acidified rainwater comes down through, melts out the calcium carbonate sand, and redeposits them in these layers. Now these are considerably older. These are called speleothems. We're looking at about 900,000 years here. These are flowstone draperies. This up here is called popcorn. And you've got 100% humidity and the wind's blowing. Instead of getting the stalactites, you get this popcorny looking stuff. Now before we put a gate on out there, I was working in Kaloa, and one of the cooks down there was coming in here, breaking these off and selling them for $50 a piece.
Oh, wow.
Did you just pull this out of your pocket?
I did.
Oh, okay. Good.
It looked like Christmas lights back in here, and they're all gone now.
This was all covered in that?
Yeah, there were just dozens of them. It was gorgeous.
And he was
beautiful.
illegally
And
breaking them off?
He took
and
them
selling
all, yeah, except for that one. It
beautiful.
cost him. I dislocated his knee.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 100,000 years right there. And now they're gone. Isn't that
I did
beautiful?
I did like a water tubing thing through some caves in Belize.
Oh,
And on the
yeah.
inside it was all
Oh, it's
crystals.
beautiful down there, isn't it?
And I assume it was similar.
Probably like this. Did you guys hike down, or did you drive down?
We drove a scooter down here,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
On the other side of this wall, up until 1986, they were quarrying. They were taking gravel out for walkways and roads and stuff. They had to stop quarrying. There's something living back in here, extremely rare.
Currently?
Yep. Can you see that brown stone back there?
See a lot of brownstone.
This one has the 2x4 in front of it.
Sure,
You
yeah,
see it
yeah.
back there? On the other side of that brown stone,
Oh,
there's
I see it.
yeah, there's a gate that was put in by the Department of Land and Natural Resources. I used to have a key to that gate. I'd unlock the gate. I'd pick up a piece of wood like this. I'd crawl through the gate. Immediately when you get through the gate, the floor of the cavern goes down below the water table. So you have to crawl with your head against the ceiling and your nose just out of the water. About 300 feet back in there, there's a tiny, oh God, I hate this flashlight. Okay, yeah, that's Morse code. Thank you. That's going to give me a lot of that. Okay. There we go. This is what's living back there. This is the no-eyed, big-eyed wolf spider. It lives, it would fit under a dime. It's a tiny little thing. It's feeding on these things. This is a little roly-poly, a little pill bug. This one here is like a little shrimp. These guys are feeding off of the sugar that comes out of those logs. This is an enlargement of that spider. You can see.
There's just one spider in there.
No, I saw two. The woman who goes in there now has seen 11 of them.
How big are they?
They fit under a dime. They're so tiny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And why do you guys go in there?
I don't go in there anymore. She goes in to make sure they're okay because they're so rare. She's actually found 11 of them back in there.
Cool.
Now, if you go that way another 300 feet, you're actually under the ocean. You can hear the waves breaking up.
What?
Yep.
Wow.
Been in there?
Yes, I have. I will never go back in there.
That would be so freaky.
We do a lot of rock climbing, but you couldn't get me under the ground.
Yeah. That's not the most pleasant thing in the world.
No, I'd rather be much higher.
65 feet up here, there are cracks in the surface, and this windblown sand comes through. You won't find anything like that on the beach. You see how fine that is?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Now the
It's like
sand.
the desert.
Yep. The sand here came about 1 million years ago. There was a ice age, and the sea level was lowered, so the waves were breaking over the coralline algae reef out there, grinding it up, pushing it up into this sand dune. This whole area here, this whole sand dune, came from that coralline algae reef, and since it's alive, this is all a living fossil. This was all alive at one time.
Wow.
Aloha. Hi. Now, if you get over to the Bishop Museum, you'll see two of those. Those are mirrors. They're about that thick. They're about that big around. If you put a drop of water on it, you've got a perfect reflection. I was just telling them about the mirrors in the Bishop Museum. This gal, when we found her, she'd fallen over in the sand. When we chipped out the skeleton, she stood about that tall, probably weighed around 40 pounds.
That tall from the table or from the ground?
From the ground.
Whoa.
That was one of the flightless birds that wandered around down here. Sadly, they went extinct because either the Hawaiians ate them or the Hawaiians brought pigs, rats, dogs, and chickens, and the rats and the dogs ate the eggs of these, so they are now extinct. We've rewilded with these tortoises. We have 19 of them. We were told they wouldn't reproduce this far north, but it turned out they started reproducing, so we've kept them in separate areas. If you go out here, cross over the bridge, walk up this way, the first pen will have male tortoises. There's a driveway that goes back. There's a pen that has female tortoises.
The males are the ones that are all separate. The females are all hanging out together.
Yeah,
We were just
no,
out
the males are all in one area, then the females are in another area, and then my buddy Kel is all the way up at the end. He's an aggressive male. If we had him in with the other males, he'd corner the male, ram it with this up in here, and then we'd have to have a veterinary out to stitch
Why
the
is
little
he
guy
acting
up.
like that?
He's just an alpha male. He likes being bad.
Bad to the
Fun to
bone.
do bad things.
I had a pancreatic tumor and I wasn't here for 3 years. When I
Oh.
came back, it was beyond benign, by the way.
Good.
I came back and here's Kel going, "Why the hell haven't you been here feeding me?"
Do you think they remember you really?
I know he remembered me.
They're very
you know,
intelligent.
I walked in and he comes around a bush and just blocks me. And this is the picture I took. Like, why haven't you been feeding me?
How old is he?
52.
What's your oldest turtle?
That would be, I don't know, we don't have turtle soup.
Tortoise.
I love doing that. I do the same thing to my wife. People get confused. What was your question?
Who's your oldest?
Him.
52 is your oldest?
Yep.
Wow.
Now this is a picture of the pea pods that he loves.
Oh,
He's not
look
supposed
at
to
him
get
go.
those, but he loves them.
Why can't he have them? He loves it.
Too much protein.
Too
Oh.
much protein.
Yeah. Grass.
He's straight herbivore, yeah?
Yeah.
So what kind of food can they eat? Can they eat like coconut or?
Lettuce, grass, any kind of grass, lettuce. I don't think he does too well on celery. Just anything green and crunchy.
I saw out in the, well, there's like two areas, right? One of them had what looked like limes. Lime trees, limes on the ground. Do they eat the limes?
Would you sign our guest book? And if you'd like to leave us a little donation, I appreciate it.
We will. Thank you so much, Edward.
Thank you.